The longest shift, Rebecca Hayes pressed her fingers against her temples, trying to push back the headache that had been building since hour 10 of her shift. The emergency room clock read 2:47 a.m., and the fluorescent lights hummed their usual tired song. Her scrubs clung to her back, damp with the kind of exhaustion that seeped through fabric and into bones. At 28, Rebecca had seen plenty of chaos in her 3 years as an ER nurse at Chicago Memorial Hospital. Gunshot wounds, heart attacks, accidents that defied logic. But nothing quite prepared you for the quiet moments between emergencies. When your body reminded you that you'd been standing for 11 hours straight, pumping breast milk on your breaks, and running on nothing but stale coffee and determination, her phone buzzed. A text from her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who was watching for Menthode. Owen. He's sleeping like an angel. Don't worry. Focus on your patients. Rebecca smiled, despite her fatigue. Owen was her world, her reason for every double shift and missed meal. His father had walked out the day she told him she was pregnant, leaving nothing but empty promises and an unpaid phone bill. She'd cried for exactly one night, then got up the next morning and made a plan. She didn't have time for self-pity when she had a baby to raise. The sliding doors burst open with a violent whoosh. Trauma incoming. Someone shouted. Rebecca's body switched to autopilot. Fatigue vanished. She grabbed gloves, positioned herself, and waited. 2 paramedics rushed through with a gurney, their faces grim. Late 20s, car accident, severe internal bleeding. She's 8 months pregnant. We lost her pulse twice on the way, racing against death dire. Hammond took one look at the patient and started barking orders. Rebecca moved with precision, starting IVs, checking vitals, cutting away blood-soaked clothing. The woman on the gurney was young, blonde, her face peaceful despite the chaos around her. A wedding ring glinted on her finger. She's coding again. Someone yelled, "Get obstetrics down here now!" Dr. Hammond started chest compressions. "If we don't get this baby out in the next 5 minutes, we'll lose them both." The room exploded into controlled chaos. Rebecca had been part of emergency C-sections before, but never under these circumstances. Usually, there was time, preparation, consent forms. This was pure survival mode. Dr. Patel from obstetrics arrived running. "Talk to me. Mother's not responding. We need to deliver now." They didn't waste another second. Rebecca assisted as they worked with brutal efficiency. 3 minutes later, a cry pierced the air. Tiny, weak, but alive. "It's a girl," Dr. Patel announced, her voice tight. Rebecca took the baby, fragile little thing no bigger than a loaf of bread, and rushed her to the warming station. She worked quickly, clearing airways, checking responses. The baby's skin was translucent, her fingers impossibly small. Behind her, she heard the monitor's long, steady beep. The mother was gone. A fragile life, the neonatal intensive care unit became baby girl Morgan's temporary home. No first name yet. No father present. Just medical charts and machines keeping her alive. Rebecca finished her shift but couldn't leave. Something about this baby pulled at her heart. She'd stayed after her shift before for other patients, but this felt different. Maybe it was seeing that empty spot next to the incubator where a mother should have been. Maybe it was thinking about Owen at home, healthy and whole. While this little one fought for every breath, Dr. Patel found her 2 hours later. "Still standing by the incubator? You should go home, Rebecca." "How is she?" "Stable, but barely. She's refusing the formula. Her body's too weak to process it properly. We've tried 3 different types." Dr. Patel rubbed her eyes. "We're running out of options." Rebecca stared at the baby, watching her tiny chest rise and fall with effort. "What about breast milk?" "We've contacted the milk bank, but they're low on supply. And honestly, she needs more than just milk. She needs the skin contact, the bonding, the natural antibodies." Dr. Patel paused. "She needs what her mother should have given her." The words hung in the air between them. Rebecca's hand moved unconsciously to her chest. She'd pumped just an hour ago. Her body still producing milk for Owen. Her son was healthy, thriving, taking bottles just fine when she worked nights. "I could try," she heard herself say. Dr. Patel turned sharply. Rebecca, that's not protocol. We can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. Rebecca looked at the baby, at those impossibly tiny fists clenched against nothing. I'm still nursing Owen. I have milk. If it could save her life, why wouldn't I try? The first connection 20 minutes later. After emergency consultations and quickly signed medical waivers, Rebecca sat in a private room, holding baby girl Morgan against her skin. The infant was warm and frighteningly light, like holding a bundle of feathers. Just relax, the lactation consultant whispered. Let her find her rhythm. At first nothing happened. The baby's mouth moved weakly, confused. Rebecca's heart pounded. What if this didn't work? What if she'd promised something impossible? Then, slowly, instinctively, the baby latched on. Rebecca felt the pool of milk letting down, felt this stranger's child draw life from her body, and something inside her chest cracked open. Tears rolled down her face without permission. The baby's heart rate stabilized on the monitor. Her oxygen levels climbed. The nurses exchanged glances of relief. It's working, Dr. Patel breathed. For the next hour, Rebecca sat perfectly still, watching this tiny human drink and breathe and live. She thought about Owen at home. She thought about the woman who died on the gurney, who would never hold her daughter like this. She thought about how fragile and fierce life could be all at once. She didn't hear the door open. Where is my daughter? The father arrives. The man who stood in the doorway looked like he'd been hit by the same truck that killed his wife. His dark hair stood in wild directions. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his eyes red-rimmed and hollow. He was tall, broad-shouldered, the kind of presence that normally commanded attention. Right now, he just looked broken. Dr. Patel moved quickly to intercept him. Mr. Morgan, I'm so sorry for your loss. Your wife didn't make it, but your daughter is alive. She's being fed right now. Daniel Morgan's eyes found Rebecca and the baby. He stared, confused, processing. That's not a nurse, he said slowly. This is Rebecca Hayes, one of our ER nurses. Your daughter was rejecting formula. Ms. Hayes volunteered to breastfeed her. It saved her life. Daniel took a step closer, his gaze locked on his daughter's face. The baby's eyes were closed, her tiny hand resting against Rebecca's chest. She looked peaceful, content, alive. I don't understand, he whispered. Why would you do that? You don't even know us. Rebecca looked up at him, the stranger who'd just lost everything, and spoke the only truth she knew, because she needed someone. And I was here. Daniel's face crumpled. He covered his mouth with one hand, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Dr. Patel touched his arm gently. Would you like to hold her? He nodded, unable to speak. Rebecca carefully transferred the baby to her father's arms, showing him how to support her head, how to keep her warm. Daniel looked down at his daughter with an expression of pure wonder mixed with devastating grief. Her name is Lily, he said hoarsely. My wife wanted to name her Lily. It's beautiful, Rebecca said softly. They stood there in the dim hospital room. 3 people bound by circumstance and survival, while machines beeped their steady rhythm and the city slept outside. Rebecca knew she should leave, return to her own life, her own son. But something kept her rooted in place. Daniel raised his eyes to hers. Thank you. I don't know how to thank you for this. You don't have to. Will you come back? Tomorrow, to feed her again? Rebecca hesitated. This was supposed to be a one-time emergency. But looking at Lily's tiny face, remembering how she'd fought for every breath, Rebecca knew she couldn't walk away yet. I'll come back, she promised. Neither of them knew that this moment, this promise made in a hospital room at 5 a.m., would change both their lives forever. Neither could have imagined where this strange and unexpected connection would lead them. But for now, in this small pocket of time, there was only a baby girl breathing steady and strong, a father trying to comprehend his new reality, and a nurse who'd given a part of herself to save a life. Sometimes, the most extraordinary stories begin in the most ordinary places, with the simplest act of human kindness. And this story was only just beginning. The morning after Rebecca drove home as the sun painted Chicago's skyline in shades of gold and pink, Her body ached with the kind of bone-deep exhaustion that comes from 20 hours without real sleep. But her mind wouldn't stop replaying the night. The baby's tiny fingers. Daniel Morgan's devastated eyes. The weight of a life saved resting in her arms. She parked outside her modest apartment building in Rogers Park, a neighborhood where paint peeled from window frames and kids played basketball in parking lots. It was a far cry from the pristine towers downtown, but it was home. It was safe. It was hers. Mrs. Chen opened the door before Rebecca could knock, her weathered face creased with concern. "You look terrible, dear." Come in. Come in." Owen was asleep in his portable crib, his chubby cheeks pressed against the mattress, one fist curled near his mouth. Rebecca's heart swelled. She lifted him gently, breathing in his sweet baby smell, feeling the familiar weight of him against her chest. "Thank you so much, Mrs. Chen. I'm sorry it took so long. No apologies. That's what neighbors are for." The older woman paused. "You have that look." Something happened. Rebecca told her everything while Owen nursed, the words spilling out faster than she intended. Mrs. Chen listened without interruption, her expression shifting from shock to understanding. "You did a good thing," she said finally. "But be careful, Rebecca. Rich men and their problems have a way of pulling people in. It's just temporary. Just until the baby's strong enough for formula." Mrs. Chen patted her hand. "That's what we always tell ourselves." Returning to the hospital 3 days passed. Rebecca returned to the hospital each morning before her shifts. Spending an hour with baby Lily, Daniel was always there, sleeping in an uncomfortable chair beside the incubator or pacing the hallway with his phone pressed to his ear, handling business he clearly couldn't focus on. They developed a quiet routine. Rebecca would arrive, Daniel would step out to give her privacy. She'd feed Lily while soft music played from someone's phone down the hall. Afterward, Daniel would return, and they'd talk briefly about Lily's progress. Weight gained. Oxygen levels. Small victories measured in ounces and percentages. On the 4th day, Daniel looked different. His clothes were fresh, his hair combed, but his eyes held a new kind of desperation. "They're releasing her tomorrow," he said without preamble. "Dr. Patel says Lily's strong enough to leave the NICU." "That's wonderful news," Rebecca said, meaning it. "I don't know what to do." The words burst out of him. "I work 60 hours a week. I don't know anything about babies. My housekeeper quit last month, and I fired the replacement because she couldn't follow simple instructions. I've interviewed 8 nannies in 3 days, and they all seem like strangers who want my money." He ran his hands through his hair, the polished businessman facade cracking completely. "Lily needs consistency. She needs someone she knows, someone she trusts. She needs you." Rebecca's stomach dropped. "Daniel, I'm a nurse. I have my own son. I can't just leave my job. I'm not asking you to leave your job. I'm asking you to consider a temporary arrangement. Come to my home. Bring Owen. Help me learn how to be a father. I'll pay you 3 times your nursing salary. For times, name your price. This isn't about money. Then what is it about?" His voice rose, then softened. "Please, I know it's unconventional. I know it's asking too much. But Lily knows you. When you hold her, her heart rate stabilizes. When you're gone, she cries. The monitors don't lie." Rebecca looked at Lily sleeping peacefully in her incubator, her tiny chest rising and falling with steady breaths. She thought about Owen at home, about bills piling on her counter, about the leaky ceiling she couldn't afford to fix. But more than that, she thought about walking away from this baby who'd somehow wrapped herself around Rebecca's heart in less than a week. 1 month, she heard herself say. "I'll take a leave of absence for 1 month. But there have to be rules. Clear boundaries. This is professional, not personal." Relief washed over Daniel's face. "Whatever you need. Whatever makes you comfortable. I need it in writing. A contract. I'll have my lawyer draft one today." Entering a New World Daniel's house wasn't a house. It was an estate in Lincoln Park, 3 stories of gleaming glass and modern architecture, with a garden that probably cost more to maintain than Rebecca's annual salary. When the car service dropped her and Owen off that first morning, Rebecca stood on the circular driveway feeling completely out of place. A woman in her 60s answered the door. Her silver hair pulled into a tight bun, her expression neutral. "You must be Ms. Hayes. I'm Margaret, the day manager. Mr. Morgan is expecting you." The interior was all clean lines and expensive emptiness. White walls, abstract art, furniture that looked uncomfortable and probably cost more than Rebecca's car. It felt like a museum, not a home. Certainly not a place for babies with sticky fingers and spit-up stains. Daniel appeared at the top of a sweeping staircase, Lily bundled in his arms. He looked exhausted, but determined. "Rebecca, thank God. She's been crying for an hour. I've tried everything." Rebecca climbed the stairs, took Lily gently, and the baby immediately quieted against her chest. Daniel stared in amazement. "How did you do that?" "She just needed to be held," Rebecca smiled. "Babies are simple creatures. They want warmth, food, and love. Everything else is just noise." Margaret showed Rebecca to a guest suite on the second floor, 2 spacious rooms connected by a private bathroom. Someone had set up a crib for Owen and a changing table stocked with supplies. A breast pump sat on the dresser, top of the line, still in its box. "Mr. Morgan had everything delivered yesterday," Margaret explained. "If you need anything else, just ask." Over the following days, Rebecca settled into a rhythm that felt surreal. She'd wake in a bed more comfortable than any she'd ever owned. Feed both babies in a nursery painted soft yellow with morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Then spend hours teaching Daniel the basics of infant care. He was a terrible student at first. He held Lily too stiffly, panicked when she cried, couldn't figure out how to fasten a diaper properly. But he showed up every morning determined to learn, taking notes on his phone, asking questions that ranged from practical to ridiculous. "Is her poop supposed to be that color? Why does she make that squeaking sound? Should I be worried that she sleeps so much?" Rebecca answered each question patiently, showing him how to read Lily's cues, how to support her neck, how to trust his instincts. Slowly, she watched him transform from a terrified corporate executive into something resembling a father. The unexpected visitor 3 weeks into their arrangement. Rebecca was feeding Lily in the living room when she heard voices in the entrance hall. Sharp, commanding, female. "Where's my son, Daniel?" A woman swept into the room like a hurricane in Chanel. She was probably in her early 60s, with perfectly styled auburn hair, a face maintained by excellent surgeons, and eyes that could cut glass. She stopped short when she saw Rebecca. "Who are you?" "Mom." Daniel appeared behind her, his jaw tight. "This is Rebecca Hayes. She's helping with Lily." "Helping?" Patricia Morgan's gaze swept over Rebecca, taking in her casual jeans, her nursing tank top, the baby at her breast. Her lip curled slightly. "I see." Rebecca felt her face flush. She gently detached Lily and covered herself, acutely aware of how this must look. A young woman in her son's home, nursing his child. "Rebecca is a nurse from the hospital," Daniel said firmly. "She saved Lily's life when no one else could. She's here temporarily to help Lily adjust." "How convenient." Tricia's voice dripped with disdain. "And I suppose she's staying here? In your home? With her own child?" "Owen is upstairs napping. And yes, it made sense for them to stay here, given Lily's feeding schedule." Patricia laughed, a cold sound. "Oh, Daniel. You always were too trusting. Do you have any idea how this looks? A widower, alone with a young nurse and babies? The press would have a field day. I don't care how it looks. Well, you should." Patricia moved closer to Rebecca, her perfume overwhelming. "Tell me, dear, what exactly are your intentions here?" "My son is very wealthy, very vulnerable right now. I'd hate to think someone was taking advantage of his grief." Rebecca stood carefully, holding Lily close. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "I'm here because Lily needed help. When she's strong enough to take bottles from anyone, I'll leave. That's the entire arrangement. Is it?" Patricia's eyes narrowed. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've made yourself quite comfortable. Nice rooms, I imagine. Good food." Access to a lifestyle you could never afford on a nurse's salary. That's enough, Mom. Daniel's voice was steel. Is it? Because I've seen this before, Daniel. Women who see an opportunity and take it. Your father dealt with gold diggers his entire career. I know how to spot them. Rebecca felt something hot and furious rise in her chest. I don't want your son's money, Mrs. Morgan. I have my own job, my own life. I'm here because a baby needed help, not because I'm looking for a sugar daddy. The words came out sharper than she intended, but she didn't regret them. Patricia's face turned cold. How dare you speak to me that way in my son's home? It's my home, Daniel interrupted, his voice dangerously quiet. And you don't get to come here and insult someone who's doing more for Lily than anyone else has. Rebecca's been here every single day, teaching me, caring for my daughter, asking for nothing in return. She's being paid, isn't she? That's not the point. Then what is the point, Daniel? Patricia turned to face her son fully. Are you developing feelings for this woman? Is that what this is about? Because your wife hasn't even been dead? Month, and you're playing house with the hired help? The room went silent. Rebecca felt like she'd been slapped. Daniel's face drained of color. Get out, he said softly. Daniel, get out of my house. Now, Patricia stared at her son for a long moment, then gathered her purse with sharp, angry movements. When this blows up in your face, don't say, I didn't warn you. She paused at the door. And Rebecca, enjoy it while it lasts. Men like my son don't end up with women like you. They marry equals. You're just a placeholder until he figures out what he really needs. She left in a cloud of expensive perfume and cutting silence. Cracks in the foundation, Daniel stood frozen, staring at the empty doorway. Rebecca carefully placed Lily in her bassinet, her hands shaking. I should go, she said quietly. No, Daniel turned to her. Please don't let her drive you away. She's wrong about everything. Is she? Rebecca wrapped her arms around herself. Daniel, look at this situation honestly. I'm living in your house, nursing your child, getting paid to be here. How is that not exactly what she described? Because your intentions are pure. Because you're not here for money or status. You're here because you care about Lily. But for how long? Rebecca's voice cracked. Your mother's right about one thing. This isn't sustainable. Eventually Lily will take bottles. Eventually you'll need to hire a real nanny and get back to your real life. And I need to get back to mine. What if I don't want you to go? The words hung between them, heavy with implications neither was ready to face. Rebecca closed her eyes. Don't say things you don't mean. You're grieving. You're overwhelmed. I'm just the person who happened to be here when everything fell apart. You're not just anything. Daniel stepped closer. You're the person who saved my daughter, who taught me how to be a father, who makes this house feel less empty. Daniel, I know it's too soon. I know I shouldn't feel this way, but I can't help noticing how right it feels when you're here. How Owen and Lily play together like siblings. How you make me laugh even when everything feels impossible. Rebecca's heart pounded. She'd felt it. Too, the warmth spreading through the house, the way Daniel had started looking at her when he thought she wasn't watching. The dangerous pull of something that felt like family but wasn't, couldn't be. I can't be your rebound, she whispered. I can't be the woman who helped you through grief and then gets left behind when you're ready to move on. I've been left before. I won't survive it again. I would never. You don't know that. You can't promise that. She gathered her courage. I think it's time for me to go. Not today, but soon. We need to start transitioning Lily to bottles. That's the right thing to do. Daniel looked like he wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. Finally, he nodded. Okay, but not because of what my mother said, because you think it's right. It is right. No. That night, alone in her luxurious guest room with Owen sleeping beside her, Rebecca let herself cry. She'd known this was temporary. She'd told herself not to get attached, not to let herself imagine a future that didn't exist. But hearts don't listen to logic. And somewhere in the past 3 weeks, she'd fallen in love with a little girl named Lily. Maybe even with her father, which made leaving the only option that made sense. The investigation, what Rebecca didn't know, was that Patricia Morgan had already set wheels in motion. The very next morning, she met with a private investigator in a downtown coffee shop, sliding a file across the table. Everything I could find on Rebecca Hayes. It's not much. The investigator flipped through pages. Single mother, nursing degree from a state school, no criminal record. Seems pretty clean. Everyone has secrets. Find hers. I need something that will make Daniel see reason before he does something stupid like falling in love with her. And if there's nothing to find, Patricia's smile was cold. Then create reasonable doubt. Anonymous tips to the nursing board about ethical violations. Questions about why she's living with a patient's family. Suggestions of impropriety. I don't need proof. I just need questions. The investigator nodded slowly. That could damage her career. That's the point. Women like her need to understand their place. Their place is not in my son's life. 2 weeks later, Rebecca received a letter from the Illinois Board of Nursing. She was under investigation for potential ethical violations related to establishing a personal relationship with a patient's family member while providing care. A formal hearing was scheduled. She read the letter 3 times, her vision blurring. This could cost her everything. Her license, her career, her ability to support Owen. Daniel found her sitting on the floor of her room. The letter crumpled in her hand, tears streaming down her face. What happened? She handed him the letter without speaking. His face went dark as he read. This is my mother. It has to be. It doesn't matter who it was. What matters is it's real. They're investigating me. I could lose my license. I'll fight this. I'll hire the best lawyers. No. Rebecca stood, wiping her eyes. Don't you see? This is exactly what she warned would happen. It's being associated with you with this situation. It's destroying my life. I need to leave today. Rebecca, please. I have to protect Owen. I have to protect my career. I can't do that here. She started packing, throwing clothes into bags with shaking hands. Lily's taking bottles now. She doesn't need me anymore. You'll find a good nanny. You'll be fine. What if I don't want to be fine without you? Rebecca stopped, her back to him. Then I'm sorry, but I can't fix that. I can only save myself. She called for a cab, gathered Owen and their belongings, and walked out of Daniel Morgan's beautiful, empty house without looking back. But leaving didn't stop her heart from breaking. And it didn't stop her from wondering if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. The aftermath. Rebecca's apartment felt smaller than she remembered. The ceiling still leaked when it rained. The neighbors still argued loudly at 2 a.m. Owen's second-hand crib still wobbled slightly on uneven legs. Everything was exactly as she'd left it. But Rebecca felt like a completely different person. She threw herself into preparing for the nursing board hearing, organizing documentation, gathering witness statements from colleagues who could vouch for her character. Her lawyer, a tired-looking woman from legal aid, told her the truth without sugarcoating it. These investigations are serious. Even if you're cleared, there'll always be a mark on your record. Some hospitals won't hire you. Some won't trust you. I didn't do anything wrong, Rebecca insisted. I saved a baby's life. I believe you. But perception matters in cases like this. A young, single nurse, living with a wealthy widower. It looks bad, even if the reality was innocent. Becca wanted to scream. She'd done everything right. She'd helped someone who needed her. Now she was being punished for it. The first week back at work was torture. Colleagues whispered when she passed. Some avoided eye contact. Others asked invasive questions disguised as concern. The nursing director called her into an office and explained, with forced sympathy, that Rebecca would be placed on administrative leave pending the investigation's outcome. It's standard procedure. Nothing personal. Everything felt personal. At night, after Owen fell asleep, Rebecca found herself scrolling through news articles about Daniel. He'd returned to work, his company's stock had recovered from a brief dip, and he'd been photographed at a charity gala, looking handsome and remote. No mention of Lily, no mention of Rebecca. It was like those weeks had never happened. Mrs. Chen brought soup and sat with her on particularly bad days. You did the right thing, leaving, she said. Men like that, they live in different worlds. Better to hurt now than hurt worse later. But Rebecca wondered if there was any way to hurt worse than this. Daniel's unraveling what? Rebecca didn't know was that Daniel was falling apart in his expensive house with his successful company and his miserable, lonely existence. He'd hired 3 nannies in 2 weeks. The first quit after Lily screamed for 6 hours straight, refusing her bottle. The second was perfectly professional but cold, treating Lily like a task to complete rather than a child to nurture. The third seemed promising until Daniel came home early and found her on the phone, ignoring Lily's cries from the next room. He fired her on the spot. Now he was down to Margaret, who helped during the day but went home at 6, and himself, who had no idea what he was doing. Lily had stopped sleeping through the night. She barely ate. The pediatrician said there was nothing medically wrong, just adjustment issues. Some babies form strong attachments early, the doctor explained. The separation from her primary caregiver might be affecting her. Daniel knew exactly who that primary caregiver was, and he'd let her walk away. His mother called weakly, her voice dripping with false sympathy. I heard about the investigation. Such a shame. But it's better you found out her character now, rather than later. You did this, Daniel said flatly. You filed that complaint? I protected you. You'll thank me eventually. He hung up and blocked her number. Work became his escape. He buried himself in code, in meetings, in expansion plans that required 16-hour days and weekends at the office. His business partner, Anthony, finally cornered him in the break room. Man, you look terrible. When's the last time you slept? Who can sleep? Is this about the nurse? Rebecca. Daniel's hands tightened around his coffee cup. I don't want to talk about it. Too bad. I'm talking about it. Anthony leaned against the counter. I saw how you looked when she was around. I saw how Lily was. You were actually happy, Daniel. For the first time since the accident, you seemed alive. It was temporary. We both knew that. Did you? Because from where I stood, it looked like you were building something real. And then you let her walk away. She chose to leave. Did she? Or did you make it impossible for her to stay? Anthony shook his head. Your mom really did a number on her, didn't she? And you didn't fight hard enough to fix it. The words hit like physical blows because they were true. Daniel had let Rebecca leave. He'd watched her pack, listened to her pain, and done nothing to stop her because some part of him believed what his mother had said, that it was too soon, that he was confused, that Rebecca was just a convenient placeholder for the grief. Couldn't process, but every day without her proved those thoughts wrong. He missed her laugh when Owen did something ridiculous. He missed the way she hummed while feeding Lily. He missed her honest observations about his terrible cooking and her patient explanations of why babies did confusing things. He missed the way she made his enormous house feel like a home instead of a mausoleum. He missed her. The nursing board hearing took place on a gray Tuesday morning in a sterile conference room downtown. Rebecca sat beside her lawyer, hands folded in her lap, trying to project calm she didn't feel. The board consisted of 5 people, their faces professionally neutral as they reviewed her file. Ms. Hayes, you're here regarding allegations that you engaged in an inappropriate relationship with the family member of a patient while providing medical care. Can you explain the circumstances? Rebecca took a breath and told the truth. She explained the emergency C-section, baby Lily's rejection of formula, the medical necessity of her intervention. She provided documentation from Dr. Patel and other hospital staff confirming that her actions had saved Lily's life. And the living arrangement? One board member asked. You moved into Mr. Morgan's home? Yes. Lily needed consistent care and feeding. The arrangement was temporary and professional, outlined in a written contract. A contract that paid you well above standard nursing rates. The pay reflected the demands of the position. 24-hour availability, care for an infant with special needs, living away from my own home. They grilled her for 2 hours, asking questions designed to trap her, to make her admit to impropriety. But Rebecca held firm because she'd done nothing wrong. She'd saved a baby's life. Everything after that was just survival. Finally, they dismissed her to deliberate. Rebecca sat in the hallway, her leg bouncing with nervous energy. Checking her phone every 30 seconds, Mrs. Chen was watching. Owen, Her entire future hung in the balance of what 5 strangers decided behind closed doors. The door opened. "Ms. Hayes, please come back in." Her heart hammered as she took her seat. The lead board member looked at her over reading glasses. "After reviewing all evidence and testimony, we find no ethical violation occurred. Your actions were medically justified and properly documented. However, we recommend additional training on boundary management in patient care situations. This matter is closed." Relief hit her like a wave. Her lawyer squeezed her hand. It was over. She'd won. But walking out of that building into weak autumn sunshine, Rebecca felt hollow. She'd kept her license, but she'd lost something bigger. Something she hadn't realized she wanted until it was gone. The grand gesture, that same afternoon, Daniel did something he'd never done before. He walked away from a board meeting in the middle of a presentation, ignoring confused looks and shouted questions. He drove to Chicago Memorial Hospital and demanded to see Dr. Patel. "I need to make a statement," he told her, "about Rebecca. About everything that happened. Daniel, the hearing was this morning. It's over. It's not the hearing. The world. I need everyone to know the truth." Dr. Patel studied him carefully. "What are you planning?" "Something I should have done weeks ago." He called his PR team, his lawyers, and his company's communications director. He ignored their advice to stay quiet, to let it blow over, to protect his image. Instead, he wrote the statement went live that evening, on every platform Daniel's company controlled. It appeared on his personal social media accounts, which he never used. It was sent to every major news outlet in Chicago. "My name is Daniel Morgan. 5 weeks ago, my wife died giving birth to our daughter. In my darkest moment, a nurse named Rebecca Hayes did something extraordinary. She saved my daughter's life by offering her own body as sustenance when no medical intervention worked. She asked for nothing in return. She expected nothing but to help a baby survive. When I asked her to help me learn to be a father, she agreed, bringing her own son into my home and teaching me everything she knew. She was professional, compassionate, and dedicated. She never once took advantage of my grief or my wealth. She simply showed up every day and made my family whole. Recently, Rebecca was investigated by the nursing board because of an anonymous complaint suggesting impropriety in our arrangement. I believe my mother filed that complaint to drive Rebecca away because she didn't approve of a working-class single mother being part of my life. Let me be absolutely clear. Rebecca Hayes is the most ethical, caring, selfless person I've ever met. She gave my daughter life twice, once in a hospital room and once in my home by teaching me that love matters more than money. The investigation found no wrongdoing because there was none. Rebecca did everything right. I'm the one who failed. I failed to protect her from judgment. I failed to speak up when people questioned her character. I failed to tell her what she meant to me before it was too late. Rebecca, if you're reading this, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my silence, for my mother's cruelty, for letting you believe you were temporary when you became everything. You're not a placeholder. You're not a convenience. You're the person who taught me that family isn't about blood or circumstance. It's about showing up even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I love you. I love Owen, and Lily loves you both so much she stopped eating when you left. I know I don't deserve another chance. I know I've hurt you. But if you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life proving that you're not just someone who helped me survive. You're the reason I want to live again. This isn't a fairy tale. I'm not a prince. I'm just a man who finally figured out what matters. And what matters is you. The statement went viral within hours. Coming home, Rebecca's phone exploded with notifications. Text messages from colleagues, calls from reporters, social media mentions from people she'd never met. Mrs. Chen burst into her apartment, waving her tablet. Have you seen this? Have you seen what he wrote? Rebecca's hand shook as she read Daniel's words. Tears blurred the screen. She read it again, then a third time, hardly believing what she was seeing. He'd chosen her, publicly, irrevocably, without hesitation. Her phone rang. Daniel's name flashed on the screen. She answered.
Oh.
Did you mean it? Her voice cracked. Every word? Every single one. He sounded wrecked, hopeful, terrified. I should have said it weeks ago. I should have fought for you when my mother attacked you. I should have made you stay. You couldn't make me stay. I had to choose it. And now? Would you choose it now? Rebecca looked around her cramped apartment. At the life she'd built through sheer determination, at Owen playing with his blocks in the corner. She thought about Daniel's empty mansion, about Lily's tiny face, about the feeling of rightness she'd felt in those brief, perfect weeks. I'm scared, she whispered. What if this doesn't work? What if your mother was right and we're too different? Then we'll figure it out together. No more silence. No more letting other people define us. He paused. Lily won't eat, Rebecca. She cries every night. She needs you. I need you. Please come home. Your house isn't my home. Then let's make it ours. Bring Owen, bring whatever you need to feel safe. But please don't give up on us because of what other people think. Rebecca closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down. But underneath the fear was something stronger. Hope. The stubborn, ridiculous hope that maybe broken people could build something beautiful together. I need you to promise me something, she said. Anything. Promise you'll never go silent on me again. Promise that when things get hard, you'll talk to me instead of withdrawing. Promise that you see me as an equal, not someone you're rescuing. I promise. All of it. You've never needed rescuing, Rebecca. If anything, you rescued me. She smiled through her tears. Okay then, we'll try. But we're doing this the right way. Dating, slow, no rushing into anything just because we have kids who love each other.